Thank you for staying. Thank you for keeping us company. Time now for us to get into the newspapers, and we have most of them lined up for us this morning. We're going to be discussing the details with you, and we're joined by Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. He is a political scientist, a lecturer at the University of Ghana, and he is also director of the Center for European Studies at the same institution. He joins us for a conversation. But before I bring him in, this segment is brought to you courtesy of Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. What are they offering you? Pay attention. If you're a man, prostate screening gratis for free. Okay, you're not going to pay anything. If you're a woman, fertility screening for free, also for free. And I've been harping on this, that in recent times I've encountered many men who have concerns about their prostates, who have checked and realized that there were issues they should have been dealing with. So why don't you just go and get yourself checked? For the women's end, there are so many cases of fibroids and this and that, all of them fertility-related issues. Have you got yourself checked? That is why all of us need to make tracks to Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. Where can you find them? Here in Accra, they're at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. In Kumasi, Kronoma, we're here behind the Angel Educational Complex. Then there is Takrady Anaji State, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa, and Esiama Nzema. You do want to give them a call, don't you? Here are the numbers: 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But just bringing me to the start of the news review, let me say a very good morning to Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. If you can hear me, Doc, welcome aboard.
Yeah, good morning, Ben.
Good to have you, as always.
Yeah.
It's been another week, another cycle has come, and there have been lots of happenings. One thing I have been talking about, I think it's 2 days to go now, we have another Green Ghana Day. But what do we have to show when in one breath we're greening Ghana and in another we're wantonly destroying our country with Galamsey? I don't know whether you followed the news this morning, but in the Sejamase community, some residents, prominent residents, were talking about the fact that there had been an outbreak of strange diseases previously unknown to them on the back of illegal mining activities. And one of them, a very prominent member of that community, said that there was a time when some excavators belonging to illegal miners were confiscated and all of that at the police, or by the police, I should say. Then people would come with notices, whether from the seat of the presidency, his words, not mine, or other high offices in our country. And by, all the excavators left the containment center. When we act like this as a country, how can we possibly win the fight against Galamsey? So that's been on my mind. If there are any thoughts you'd like to share with us this morning, like I usually give my guests the opportunity to do, you can do that right before we get into the papers.
Yes, what you have said is a worrying situation. And the only thing I can say here is that the government doesn't want to fight it. Because if indeed government is serious about fighting Galamsey, they would have put all resources together to fight it. But what we are seeing, the government is not ready. So the least said about it, the better. I want to look at something Mr. Hakmot Usajiman said regarding a compromise candidate, that they've started talking to Polka Party hopeful who want to contest for the MPP flagbearership, and then to impress it upon them, as it were, to suspend the ambition and then work towards having a compromise candidate. That proposal, for me, is an interesting one, but it has come too late. Why am I saying this? If you look at MPP as a party, they have sat down for the system to be bastardized, that they have encouraged all manner of things happening to the extent that now, look at the people who want to contest. They are at each other's throat. Now you want to call for what? A compromise candidate. But I'm asking a question. When did the MPP know that popular acclamation is also useful? And they condemn NDC for pseudo declaration. Is that not what they want to do? That is not good enough. What is more worrying is that once you chart this path, you are not going to find anything meaningful because nobody is going to step down. And I'm wondering whether those who are asking for that will have the courage to ask, for instance, Dr. Baumia to step down, or Alan Chemating to shelve his ambition, or Kennedy Japan, or Bashir Jack.
You know, it's interesting. I put that same thought to Hackman Owusu-Agyeman, and he said that, well, I asked them that if they went through and they had to sieve, cut down, trim the numbers, did he honestly think a Dr. Baumia or an Alan Chemating would not make the cut? And he said, well, you never knew what the delegates or the screening process could bring on board. But like you're saying, it would be almost suicidal for the MPP if any of these two juggernauts did not feature. And I remember when Kojo Poku, one of those who also wants to contest, in fact, he has picked up form, so let's say he is contesting, was queried by my colleague Evans Mensah on the same subject. He said that it was too early, and that in fact, until it got to the point where super delegates maybe had to come into the picture, for now, everybody had a right to go and show themselves and contest and have delegates take a look at them. Is that your view as well?
Yes, I share that view because, look, what Mr. Owusu-Agyeman is asking for, a compromise candidate, can be gained through electoral process. That compromise candidate will be born when you allow people to select through election. That person will emerge. Yes, that is all that it means. You want a compromise candidate. The only process through which you can get that person is through election. Then we say that this is the candidate that we all are in support. We want him to lead the party. That's it. Any other measure, you are going to deepen the woes of the party. You create enmity. You create bitterness, rancor. And look at the economic conditions of this country. It has put the MPP in bad light. And I'm not sure they want to ruffle the feathers more by adding this to it. I think that proposal might be shelved immediately because it is not going to go anywhere. People will resist it, and people will doubt even that body that they will put in place to screen people, to sieve the process and get that compromise candidate. Nobody will believe that. So they should abandon it and allow the election to go. I am getting a feeling that maybe it's a candidate that is why they are doing that. And if that is the case, then I'm afraid they should just advise the person to master the courage and go through the election. If it's indeed he's popular among the people will vote for him. Because if there is no such a plan, then they have done their research and know that, yes, a particular candidate will obviously emerge victorious. Why do you want to suggest this proposal? I think it will not help them.
Point made. Let's see how the cookie crumbles. The MPP will have to, their motto is development in freedom. So let's see whether they will deliver that freedom to the candidates who hope to contest. And at the end of the day, one person must carry the day. How they'll execute that, only time will tell. But just an interesting thought. On the back of just talking reminded me of a statement that was made. Who was it exactly that said this? I'd have to call it to mind. I don't want to mention a name that is not accurate. But he said that no matter which candidate the NPP fielded, that candidate, no matter whom, would be better than former President John Dramani Mahama. The name is just on the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember it. When I do, I'll bring it up. But what do you feel about such rhetoric? He says no matter the candidate that the MPP fields, that person will be better than the opposition leader, so to speak, former President Mahama. Is the MPP becoming complacent?
Oh, from their posture, it's gradually becoming a reality that they are becoming too complacent. But they can be surprised at the polls. So they should be careful and then go slowly. Yes, because for election, anything can happen. And it's a numbers game. And remember that one vote that you lose can put somebody in the lead, and you cross the line and he becomes the president. There are certain things that they need to make sure that they get them right. I'm sure you heard this statement that they talk about Dankwa, Dombo, Buzia. Some of them are saying that it is a turn of for Dombo. I'm sure you heard that statement.
Yes.
It is unfortunate. It is unfortunate. Why am I saying that? If you talk about Dankwa, you are talking about UGCC. You are talking about Dombo. You are talking about MPP, the Northern People's Party. You are talking about Buzia. You are talking about Ghana's Congress Party. After 1951 election, UGCC lost out, and their remnants became the backbone for the Ghana Congress Party that was led by Professor Buzia. Then, in 1956, NLM emerged. So there were other parties also around. The Gashi Fimokwe, the Gaston Party, Anglo Youth Organization, Togoland Congress. All these parties could not stand the mighty of Kwame Nkrumah, CPP. CPP whipped them to line, and then they won the last election of 1956. In 58, Kwame Nkrumah passed Avoidance of Discrimination Act. So all the political parties won on the ground and then gang up and form a party called UP. So if you are talking about these three names, you are talking about UP. For me, you are leaving out other groups such as what? The Togoland Congress, such as the Gashi Fimokwe, such as Anglo Youth Organization. They are part of the UP. So if you are saying that it's for this three, that it is a 10 of Dombo, what about the 10? When will be the 10 for what? Togoland Congress. When will be the 10 for what? Anglo Youth Organization, Gastefa's Party, and the rest of them. Once you do that, you create what? Problems within the party. Those who are talking about that should stop it, because it sends the wrong signal that you are dividing people. You don't want some people to be in your midst and all that. That idea must be shelved. That statement, they should stop saying that. Otherwise, it can be used as a campaign tool against them. The history is clear. That when you are talking about UP, you are talking about amalgamation of what? Political parties. It's not only three, the Northern People's Party. It is not only the UGCC or what? Ghana Congress Party, but you are talking about others. So when will be the time for the other ones? Those who are saying those things, they should stop it. The history will not support that.
Thank you for those insightful thoughts that you've shared with us. Let's get into the papers now, starting with the Daily Graphic. Anti-corruption plan cure for IMF bailout. That's according to CHRAJ. Joseph Whittle, the CHRAJ boss, pictured there. Mental health eats up 7% of our GDP. That story is on page 16. Justice Doche bows out, vows to continue fight for justice. And I saw him recently in a certain church. It was good to see him. There's also Green Ghana Day, like I've mentioned, 2 days more. But where's the accountability, Mr. President? Where is the accountability? How much have we expended? How many trees have been, planted? How many have survived? And as we go, how about the seedling suppliers who have not been paid? What do we do? Are we just adding cost upon cost? And how is this remedying our wanton destruction of our environment through Galamsey? Questions for your reflection, Mr. President. Supreme Court overturned $16 million judgment against Ghana Telecom. On the back page, 200 children suffer heart diseases from birth yearly. And that's a sorry story, like Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante will say, 200 children. There's also Spain supports immigration and police with vehicles. And we brought you that story in the AM News this morning. But let's get into the first one, the banner headline. Now, the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, CHRAJ, has stated that the National Anti-Corruption Action Plan will save the country from the cycle of returning to the International Monetary Fund for economic support. The Commissioner of CHRAJ, Joseph Whittle, in an interview with the Daily Graphic last Thursday, said NACAP, which was the country's strategic response to corruption, needed the full attention of the government as a major anti-corruption tool to settle on. He said the plan, if fully implemented, would include a robust Conduct of Public Officers Act, which would tackle rampant conflict of interest situations with sanctions and ensure a robust assets declaration regime among officers in public service from the president to the messenger. Now, Mr. Whittle expressed worry that in spite of the overriding importance of NACAP in checking corruption emanating from the public sector, there had been little interest in passing the Code of Conduct bill, adding that, quote, the bill is presently before Cabinet. So what is hobbling moving forward? That is the question. And just to give a bit of a background to the story, Ghana's strategy against corruption was conceived at the first National Integrity Conference organized by CHRAJ all the way in 1998. That is some 25 years ago. The National Anti-Corruption Strategy was validated at the Second Integrity Conference in October 2011. Since its inception in 2015, progress reports on the country's performance have been issued in 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019. The fight against graft, Dr. Asah-Asante, it appears to be a big one that we bleed from. The finance minister himself has said that between 4 and 6 billion, I mean, he said something of the sort quite a while ago, is lost to corruption. But we're still in the doldrums. Any reactions to this story? Doc, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. It's unfortunate that we are struggling to fight corruption. I support the position by the CHRAJ boss that one surest way by which we can save this country for going for IMF support and the rest of them is to tighten the noose around corruption. We need to fight it head on. GII has told us, that's Ghana Integrity Initiative, has told us that every year we lose about $3 billion to corruption. That is the money that IMF is giving us and we are so excited about. If we fight corruption head on, we are going to save a lot of money. In addition to that, let us also have Parliament should continue to do its good work by making sure that the money that we lose through public offices that are captured in the Auditor's General reports is also, dealt with seriously. Because there are a lot of money that we lose through activities in public services. All these things, when we put them together, it should be able to help us out of corruption. But governments that we have had over the years, they just pay lip service to corruption. They don't want to fight it. And up to date, I don't know why that corruption is so difficult for them to fight, where they know that if they strengthen their effort in this direction, we are going to rake in a lot of money and it will help this country. I think that we as a society, we must make sure that we force them to do the needful by voting them out if they don't fight corruption. Once we continue to do that, I'm sure they will listen to us. Because for the electorate, the only power we have is power to renew or not to renew one's mandate. And that we have to exercise it carefully and effectively. Once we do that, I'm sure we'll get somewhere. Otherwise, we will always talk about corruption, and corruption will still be what serve as albatross around our necks.
Let's wrap with the daily graphic with these stories. Mental health eats up 7% of GDP. And a study conducted by 3 institutions has revealed that 7% of the country's productivity is lost to ordinary Ghanaians due to mental health. Now, the study by the University of Ghana's Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, popularly known as ISA, in collaboration with the Yale University and the Department of Psychiatry, Department of the University of Ghana, also showed that only 3% of mental health patients received services from orthodox psychiatric settings. 3% from orthodox psychiatric settings. Now, the low access is due to geographical barriers, economic challenges, stigma, the lack of human resources, and training opportunities, as well as inadequate infrastructure. President Akufo-Addo made reference to the statistics when he opened the mental health department building at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital in Accra yesterday. One thing that we have performed woefully on is mental health, whether from the organizational level, private business, public business, all the way to government itself and the citizenry by and large. Mental health is not prioritized in this country at all. Not in any way. I mean, the other day someone drew my attention to something. You remember those in Fana where some children were just going to school and back. They were in the canoe, it capsized, and some of them drowned. I hear that the girl who was holding her brother, and he fell in there, and, they couldn't rescue him before the unfortunate happened. She's been having some, post-traumatic incidents and all of that. Have we bothered to give them psychological or psychiatric assistance? You get it. So it's something that is poorly prioritized in this country, and it always comes back to bite us. Now we're hearing 7% of our GDP. The last time I checked, our GDP was hovering around $70+ billion. So what this basically means is that a chunk of that, somewhere around 7 billion, is lost to mental health. But what are we doing about it? Again, we're sitting ducks. Let me just add these stories so you can react to them together. Speaker swears in a member of parliament for Kumeu. And of course, we heard of that yesterday as Parliament, the 8th Parliament, resumed. He took the oath of allegiance and the oath as a member of Parliament. We also know that the Minority Caucus has now endorsed the new Chief Justice nominee. I'm talking about Gertrude Torkornoo. But I had to end with this. Period poverty. How loud must we shout to be heard? That's on gender. That's on page 13. Grab a copy of it. And I will keep harping on this unless I don't see a story on it. And unless it doesn't come to mind. Because why we have about 35% of taxes, both the importation tax and VAT put together on sanitary pads, considering them some sort of luxury, I don't understand. Nigeria has scrapped all such taxes. Tanzania, Kenya, among other countries. Why are we still maintaining this tax and making sanitary products so expensive for our women? As long as I remember this issue, I'll bring it up. So, for your reflection, 7% of GDP lost to mental health. Kumeu MP sworn in, and then there is the bit about sanitary pads and why we're taxing them. Any quick thoughts, Doc?
Yeah, I will look at mental health. It's a problem. We pay very little attention to mental health, but it's one of the areas in health that requires a lot of attention. But here, what we see, look at people in such difficult situation. We have allowed them to even roam around, and sometimes they even pose danger to people who walk around. You and I are alive to a story where somebody killed, a mental health person killed somebody, a passerby, and the rest of them. These things need to be checked and checked properly. Right. Even look at their hospitals. We pay attention to their hospitals. The last time I visited one of the facilities, you saw the environment. That as if there is no attention. Recently, we heard stories about even Pantan Hospital that people are encroaching and people those working there are complaining. Why are we doing that? We need to be able to put resources in and then pay attention to that. It is part of the requirements that we need to fulfill if we really want to up our game in the area of health. I'll move on to the taxation on sanitary pads. I think we all heard Dr. Bawumia, who chastised the NDC for having introduced a lot of nuisance taxes. I want to find out whether this tax is part of the nuisance taxes, because sanitary pads are so important in the life of women. So why do you want to discourage people from using it? We have heard that lack of it has created all manner of problems for young girls who are in schools, in secondary schools. So I think the NDC decided that to apply pupils or students with those parts. Why are we doing this? Taking a lot of taxes in this area. What it tells us that you want to prevent people from using it, because if I don't use it, then I don't pay any tax. But have we forgotten that there is a problem in that direction that we want to kill? And then some are not able to buy this, and they are unable to go to schools and the rest of them. I think that the government must look at this policy again. It is not in the interest of anybody in this country at all. I'll move on to the new MP for Kumawu. We hope and pray that he will continue, will start his work and do it well. He should be able to support his people through a lot of development, a lot of programs that will uplift the conditions of the people. We put people in parliament to serve our interests. We don't want them to serve their own parochial interests. I'm sure he knows these things more than I do. So we will support him, whatever means possible, but we will not hesitate to take a swipe at him when he does something to the contrary. But we believe that his addition, he should let us feel it, that it is something that is going to add to the quality that we have in Parliament. Parliament doing a great job, and we want any addition to be worth its salt. Then I look at the last one on the I think the CJ. Justice Doje, who's bowing out.
Okay.
Congratulations to him. He has served his country well, and we wish him well and his family as he goes out of the Supreme Court. We want to see him alive for a very long time. We pray for him. He has served his country well, and the world will remember him. This country will remember him forever and ever.
Justice Doche, of course, one who has been there, done that, and served his motherland. Let's wrap, Doc, on with these stories from the Daily Guide, and I'll pick two more, just the headlines from two other papers. But the Daily Guide, economy back on track, that's according to Dr. Bawumia, Vice President. He was speaking at the third Ghana Investments and Opportunities Summit in London yesterday. And he noted that the government was relentlessly refocusing on economic growth and working hard to regain the trajectory Ghana was on before COVID. And he indicated that the country's economic opportunity for private sector investors was back on track. We'll have to find out from those in the business sector. When we speak to them, that's not the rhetoric, that's not how they feel. On the back of still rampant inflation, on the back of the cedi still flip-flopping. But minority attacks World Bank boss. And the minority in parliament is demanding evidence from the World Bank country director, Pierre-Franck Laporte, over claims he made on the take-or-pay power purchase agreements of the energy sector. Now, ranking member for Mines and Energy, John Janapo, speaking on behalf of the minority, said the World Bank director should provide evidence of peer countries who were willing to invest $300 million and above in gas-to-power projects at the time of emergency without demanding some form of supply and payment guarantees. The minority also debunked the claim that the PPAs approved under the Mahama administration were the cause of Ghana's current energy sector problems. They pointed out that the MPP minority in parliament at the time approved all the agreements, including Amandi, AXA, and Ameri without any objection. So that is their claim there. Those two stories, the only ones I'll add, headlines, this headline from The Finder: management of Gambaga witches camps calls for support to refurbish the huts. We are probably the only country, probably, because I read some statistics in the past, with witch camps. But the other dynamic, some of these people ordinarily would be killed. And so the witch camps serve a purpose in terms of protecting them, preventing them from an untimely death. And that's the story there. The final one, health sector in the Ghanaian Publisher. Health sector needs serious funding. That's according to the health minister. And I was reading a story only yesterday about the flock of nurses to the UK. I think about 1,200 of them within a short space of time in 2022. It's becoming a huge problem. Any quick reactions to a few of these stories, and then we can wrap the conversation?
Yes, I'll look at the health sector, especially where we don't pump a lot of money in there.
Right.
There are a lot of waste in the system. Why can't we organize ourselves well, get all these resources and pump into important areas such as health, which feed into every sector? Because when you have ill health of people, productivity will go down. This is a very simple thing that every government must know. So why are we paying lip service to this? We need to strengthen that area if we are interested in productivity. The other bits on that score is also the issue of health officials who are leaving this country to seek greener pastures. What do you expect them to do if economic conditions are difficult? This tells us that we need to manage the economy very well so that it becomes attractive for people to stay here and work.
Right.
Because yes, from time to time, people will leave the country. But when you have exodus of people, moving to other countries to look for meaningful jobs, then it creates a problem, especially when you are talking about health sector where the state are pumping a lot of resources to train people. Then we are losing our resources.
Right.
So we should be able to work these things very carefully in order to ensure value for money. The last one I will look at it is the vice president saying that the economy is back on track. And I want to find out, is it the case that it is the government doing, or it is the IMF equation which is performing the miracle? Obviously, we know that it is not the government, it is the IMF. But my worry is that why do we always want to sit down for things to degenerate and we get to IMF? Look at the conditions they are giving us. My worry, my pain is that now government is ready to go along with all the conditions, strict, however strict they are. But you ask yourself, on your own, wouldn't you have done it in your own freestyle where you can maintain discipline and then avert this problem of IMF with all the conditionalities? I think our leaders must be able to govern this country very well and making sure that the economy is safe and sound and produce what we require as a people.
Indeed, I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you so much, Doc, for joining the conversation. Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, political scientist, director of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. We wish you the best, sir.
Thank you.
Happy birthday to Kamfatamu. You are head of Customer Care Fidelity Bank. Yesterday, in fact, belated happy birthday to you. Yesterday, you turned 50. And from your gang, Mac Randolph, Jemima, Ambrose, as well as Pakwesi, Lila, Troy, Tyrell, and Tori Hagan, they wish you the very best as you chalk 50 years. Also from Isaac Amu of our Isaac Amwa of our camera department, you say you want me to salute Benjamin Ni Aja Togbo, elder Benjamin Akakpo of the Forestry Commission. God richly bless you as you mark your birthday today. This segment brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, offering free prostate screening, free female fertility screening. You can reach them at Accra Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi, Chronomabwe behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takrade Anaji Estate, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa and Esiama Enzema. Call them on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But the start of sports up next.